everybody agrees that the delay of aid alone, according to the anti-Trump brigade, is worthy of impeachment. The delay of any foreign aid. Now, some of you 0.001%ers already are putting it together. Really? Any delay in aid allocated is impeachable? Let's check out this little blast from the past.
Got a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they walked out the press conference and said, "Nah," I said, "I'm not going to. We're not going to give you the billion dollars." They said, "You have no authority. You're not the president." The president said, "I said, call him." I said, "I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion." I said, "You're not getting $1 billion."
Sounds like a delay in aid to me.
About 6 hours. I looked. I said, "You leave in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money." Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
Also breaking tonight, the third story in a row, there are new developments in the Hunter Biden email story. Your senior political correspondent Mike Emanuel in Washington. Good evening, Mike. Brett, good evening. One senior federal official tells Fox News the FBI and DOJ concur with DNI John Ratcliffe's assessment that Hunter Biden's laptop and emails were not part of a Russian disinformation campaign. And the senior federal official says the FBI is in possession of the Hunter Biden laptop in question. That breaking moments ago. Also late today, a new photo has emerged in the New York Post showing former Vice President Joe Biden's son Hunter and purported Kazakh officials. It is undated. We're checking with our sources to get as much information as we can about it and the proper context, as we are with all the new revelations in this Hunter Biden story. Some Republicans charging censorship, even election interference, as the social media platforms blocked distribution of the initial Hunter Biden email story. The president also jumped on this May 2017 email with Chinese energy executives, verified by a source on the email chain, which discusses payment for 6 people. It includes a reference to 10% of the equity in the deal being held by H, assumed to be Hunter, for the big guy, which sources say is Joe Biden. Fox News has obtained images including what appears to be a receipt from the Wilmington, Delaware computer repair shop signed by Hunter Biden. It also listed an email and cell phone number for him, and documentation from the FBI's interaction with shop owner John Paul MacIsaac. It shows the Bureau took possession of an alleged Hunter Biden laptop and external hard drive last December. Senate Homeland Security Chairman Ron Johnson wants answers about the FBI's actions since then.
The FBI owes us a defensive briefing. If this shop owner is fraudulently peddling information to the Congress, that's a crime. The FBI ought to brief us on that as well.
Investigative journalist Glenn Greenwald notes the Biden campaign's silence on the authenticity of what's been reported.
No one in the Biden camp, not Hunter Biden, not Joe Biden, not anyone with the Biden campaign has even insinuated, let alone stated, that the emails are anything other than authentic.
The FBI has made every effort to stay out of the 2020 election after it was front and center in 2016 with Hillary Clinton's emails and her private server. But tonight, some breaking news. We are told by a senior federal official that the FBI is in possession of the laptop and that the FBI and DOJ concur with the Director of National Intelligence that this is not part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Let me show you the first 20 minutes of our interview a few hours ago with Tony Bobolinsky, well-known international businessman, who was asked by the Biden family to do business with them in China. He met with the former Vice President Joe Biden 2 separate times, and they talked about the China business deal. Now, this information has been out for several weeks. It's been in the hands of a number of different news organizations. The reason you're hearing a lot of this for the first time tonight on this show is because they've resolutely ignored it and tried to suppress the story. Joe Biden has rarely been asked about it, though there is an enormous amount of detail and documentation that no one has refuted because it's real. This topic did come up because the president pushed it at last week's presidential debate. And what was notable was that Joe Biden didn't deny any specifics about his connections to the Chinese Communist Party, his family doing business there. He himself participated in that business. Instead, Biden dismissed the entire story out of hand and suggested that Tony Bobolinsky, who is a veteran, a former naval officer, was part of a Russian disinformation campaign aimed at this country. Is evidence for that? Well, there wasn't any. Instead, he cited a letter from, quote, 54 former national intelligence folks, almost all of them partisans, every one of them a liar. None of them had directly assessed accessed the information. Not one of them called Tony Bobulinski. They knew nothing. Joe Biden said that on stage. And so when we spoke to Tony Bobulinski, we asked him his reaction to that. And here's what he said. Tell me about the conversation you had with Joe Biden. What did he say to you?
You mean the morning after he spoke?
That's right.
They just, there was 10 people running around getting him something to drink, and we were backstage in a cramped space, and he asked me to walk with him out to the car, and he just asked, how I did and what I thought of the speech, and I thought he did a great job in the speech, and obviously cancer is a very serious thing that we should all be working together to solve. I just lost a sister-in-law within the last 2 weeks, sadly to cancer, and then he just sort of asked me to keep an eye on his son and his brother.
What do you think he meant by that?
I think he was conscious of things, and I can't speak for him. Maybe I would love for him to go on record. As I referenced earlier, I'm only sitting here because they have not only have they not gone on record, they've denied it, and they've tarred my family name and a long history of serving this country, and have other congressmen now talking about Russian disinformation.
This whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin.
I held a top secret clearance for the NSA and the DOE. I served this country for 4 years in one of the most elite environments in the world, Naval Nuclear Power Training Command. And to have a congressman out there speaking about Russian disinformation, or Joe Biden at a public debate referencing Russian disinformation, when he knows he sat face to face with me, that I was traveled around the world with his son and his brother, to say that and associate that with my name is absolutely disgusting to me.
Did you complain about that? I mean, to suggest that you were committing treason or part of a foreign attack on our democracy, which is how they characterized it. I mean, that's such a serious and, I think, unfair charge. Did you bring this up with them?
Well, in basic form, you're exactly right. They are publicly accusing me of treason right now, treating me like I'm insignificant, or the 50 years of history that my family served this country is insignificant, and that's why I'm sitting here having this. I assure you, this is the absolute last place I want to be right now, and the last thing I want to be doing right now. But I feel like I have a patriotic duty to this country and every American citizen to go on record and to find the facts for them, and let them do their own work. Let them decide how they
We
view
see
those
you,
facts.
Patriot.
But for the Biden family to deny these facts, and then not only deny them, they could have just said no comment. But they didn't say no comment. They then brought in Russian disinformation and basically associated my name with that, which is absolutely disgusting to me. And I had to go on the record. Last weekend, I was in Virginia. Sadly, my sister-in-law passed away at around, I think, 6:38 Saturday morning. That's the wife of my brother, who spent 28 years serving this country as a naval flight officer and just retired. So you can imagine me dealing with that and the tragedy of that. When I saw Adam Schiff go on record talking about Russian disinformation after this email had been posted online by the New York Post, and remember, that email was to me from James Gilliard, right? That wasn't, I wasn't blind pardoned or CC'd on that. It was to me stating that I was going to be the CEO of this enterprise. I was at the end of my rope. And so I called Rob Walker, and I told him that if that statement isn't retracted by Congressman Schiff by midnight on Sunday, that I was going on record and I was disclosing all the facts to the American government, to the American citizen, and the world. I was hoping the Bidens would do the right thing, or Schiff would retract his statement. But I could not allow another minute, another hour, or day for my family's name to be associated or muddied up around Russian disinformation. So even as I sit here today, I would ask the Biden family to come on record and stop using my name or associating it with Russian disinformation. It's absolutely disgusting.
So this is Rob Walker, the representative of the Biden family. I believe his wife worked for the Biden family, apparently. So you said this to him. I won't go public. I just want them to retract the accusation that I'm an instrument of Russian disinformation. What did he say?
That's correct. Rob is under a tremendous amount of stress.
Right.
Obviously, his wife and a child, and he said, listen, let me make some calls. Let me call George, who's Hunter Biden's lawyer, and see what I can do. But he sort of presented it as if that's going to be impossible for me to get done. And, I'm not naive. I know that's not impossible to do. That's a single phone call from Joe Biden to Adam Schiff saying, basically go on record and retract your statement, you got over your skis. And when I was up late that night, and when the statement wasn't retracted, come Monday morning, I was ready to go on record. And how that record was, I was willing to go in front of any senator, any congressman, the Department of Justice, the FBI, or sit here with you, Tucker, and basically provide the facts to the American people and let them make their decision. This isn't a political focus of mine. People were accusing my family of treason after I served this country and defended this country.
So the reason you wound up here in this interview, and I just want to affirm for our audience, I don't think you had any desire to do this interview.
Absolutely no desire.
Is because nobody else told your story. So were you surprised, given the trove of documents you have, given the credibility that I think is apparent that you have, that no other news organization took the time to unpack this story?
Surprised is probably an understatement of the year. Shocked, because it would be different if this was my word against Jim Biden, Hunter Biden, and Joe Biden.
Right.
That would be a very slippery slope, not something I would take the personal and family risk on it. But I've provided more documents and facts that validate times, meetings, who participated. That email to me on May 13th was generated by somebody else sent to me. It wasn't me generating. These text messages that I've provided are Hunter Biden in the first person, Jim Biden in the first person, James Gilliar in the first person, Rob Walker in the first person. It's not me generating the text messages, it's them speaking. So you can interview them, the FBI can interview them, our government can interview them. But I was shocked that not only the media is not only discussing this, they're going to the other extreme. They're dismissing it as Russian disinformation. This country has heard enough about Russia. We went through 3 years of every day, Russia, Russia, Russia. It's just absurd. The Cold War is over.
And they're saying about your family.
Yes.
The Biden family knew that you were going public with this. And you spoke to Rob Walker about it. Again, the self-described Biden family representative. And Biden family, meaning Joe Biden as well. What was his response when you let him know that you were going public with this?
Trying to coach me. Trying to sort of say, hey, we don't want to do that. We don't want, press trucks out in front of our house. I'm going to have to move. I could lose my job. All that, I'm not trying to cause any harm to anyone in this situation,
right,
let alone Rob Walker and his family, James Gilliar and his family. But basically, Rob's position was, if you go on record with all these facts, you'll bury all of us. If he doesn't come out on record, I am providing the facts.
You're just gonna just bury all of us, man.
What was your response to that?
I was focused on pushing these guys to do the right thing, to demonstrate an ounce of integrity in front of the American people. They all know the facts, I live the facts, and luckily for the American people, all the facts are extremely well documented. I'm irrelevant in this discussion, so I can write off, but the American people can read these texts, listen to the recording that you just played, read the legal documents that were executed in Delaware, and they can form their own conclusion. They don't need me to form the conclusion for them.
Give us a sense of your contacts with Hunter Biden. A lot of this is complex. There's a lot that we're not, and this is television, so we're not putting, everything that we have on the screen,
Right,
because we can't. But for those who might suspect that you didn't really have a lot of contact with Hunter Biden, give us a sense of some of the places where you had conversations with him and over what time frame.
So, obviously, as we already discussed, throughout 2015 and 2016, while Joe was still the sitting vice president of the United States, these guys had been doing extensive work around the world in places like Oman, Luxembourg, Romania, that I was being made aware of, but I obviously hadn't come off the bench and agreed to be part of this.
I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt you there. Oman, Luxembourg, Romania.
Correct.
So they don't speak any of these languages. Neither one of these guys has any record of success in business. Neither one has a background in international business. Why would they be doing business in Oman, Luxembourg, and Romania?
Because they have relationships and they have the Biden name that they're able to set up meetings and get people to jump through hoops in an interest to garner favor with the sitting Vice President, Joe Biden.
So it sounds like Gilliar is a legitimate business guy, someone who's
Yes.
fluent in the language of
Yes,
international
James
business.
Gilliar, served his country. He's British.
Yes.
He's traveled around the world for decades. He's a very low-profile
Right.
individual, but he's sharp and he's as legitimate as they come.
Sounds it. But Hunter Biden and Jim Biden have a well-documented, decades-long record of business disasters. Did you get any sense that either one of these guys was qualified to be conducting this kind of business?
The only qualification they had was the Biden name.
But they seem to have parlayed that into quite a few deals in quite a few countries. And I interrupted you, so continue with where they were doing these deals.
Yeah, so you had asked, the extent of my communication with Hunter Biden. So when I decided to come off the bench and entertain being the CEO of CyPHA Holdings, obviously I was brought up to speed on the work that they had been doing in Oman, Luxembourg, France, Romania, Kazakhstan, and stuff like that, because that was all going to be integrated into CyPHA Holdings. And so you asked to the extent that I spent time with Hunter Biden. I personally was in Bucharest, Romania, with Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, James Gilliar, Rob Walker. I was in Monaco for the annual Grand Prix there. I was supposed to sit with Hunter Biden. I met him. I met on the patio of his hotel, and I sat there and waited for 2 hours. And you can imagine how angry and I was frustrated after sitting there for 2 hours waiting for him without a text, a phone call to let me know I can't make it or I'm tied up. And in a text that I think you guys are aware of and saw, the next day he aggressively comes back at me that he couldn't attend the meeting that he himself set up. I stepped away from family and friends on the yacht that I was on with my friends to go sit with him for a couple hours. And he's effectively screaming into the phone that he could not pick up a phone and text me because he was with the Ukrainians and Mykola, the founder of Burisma, and that he was fighting for the only income he has on the Kazakhstan deal that apparently he negotiated. Now, I had no exposure to the Kazakhstan deal. I'm not aware of any of the particulars of the Kazakhstan deal. I just know for a fact there is a Kazakhstan deal because Hunter Biden in first person told me there was in the text that I think you guys have and you will show to the American people. It's not my job to determine what that deal is. I'll leave that up to the FBI or the Senate and the Congress to figure that out.
I just want to restate this. You are not...
Kazakhstan deal. I'm not aware of any of the particulars of the Kazakhstan deal. I just know for a fact there is a Kazakhstan deal because Hunter Biden in first person told me there was in the text that I think you... guys have and you will show to the American people. It's not my job to determine what that deal is. I'll leave that up to the FBI or the Senate and the Congress to figure that out.
I just want to restate this. You are not a grifter. You're not someone who's selling access. You're a legitimate businessman who's done deals in a lot of different countries. So I just want you to assess once more, is there anything about Hunter Biden's personal experience, personal qualifications that would justify him doing a deal in Kazakhstan?
Absolutely nothing. The only thing that he had was the Biden family name and the fact that his father at one point obviously was the sitting vice president and potentially would run as a future president.
It sounds like a remarkably ambitious international business program they had running.
Extensive.
He and his uncle.
Extensive.
This is a small point, but I can't get over it. So you saw a number of reporters say, again, in an effort to bat away your story, your testimony on this, that the chairman referred to in a bunch of these emails was not Joe Biden, it was in fact the government of China. When you see people refer to the chairman thinks this, the chairman thinks that, they're talking about China and not Joe Biden. So I want to put up on the screen. Here is a text message you received from Hunter Biden to you. Hey, Tony, I have an idea. In light of the fact that we are in an impasse of sorts and both James's lawyers and my chairman gave an emphatic no, I think we should all meet in Romania on Tuesday next week. And so you're hearing reporters say that chairman was in fact the Chinese government. Here you have Rob Walker responding to you. Clearly there's some confusion over this, and he's saying, I'll put this on the screen now. When Hunter Biden said his chairman, he was talking about his dad.
Correct. There's two chairmen in the story. There's Chairman Yi, was the chairman of CFC.
Yes.
In that text from Hunter Biden, it was not talking about the chairman of CFC. And what Hunter's referencing there is he spoke with his father, and his father is giving an emphatic no to the ask that I had, which was putting proper governance in place around Oneida Holdings.
So Joe Biden is vetoing your plan for putting stricter governance in the company. I mean, and it's right here in the emails.
Yeah, Tucker, I want to be very careful in front of the American people. That is not me writing that. That is not me claiming that. That is Hunter Biden writing on his own phone, typing in that I spoke with my chairman, referencing his father. If the world thinks that my chairman is not his father, then Hunter Biden would come forward and go on record and state to the world.
But you have the Biden family representatives, Rob Walker, saying right here, May 19th, no. When he said his chairman, he was talking about his dad.
Exactly.
Gotta stop. They'll know my opinion in court packing when the election is over. Now look, I know it's a great question, and I don't blame you for asking it. But you know, the moment I answer that question, the headline in every one of your papers will be about that.
Sir, I've got to ask you about packing the courts, and I know that
Sure.
you said yesterday you aren't going to answer the question until after the election. But this is the number one thing that I've been asked about from viewers in the past couple of days.
Well, you've been asked by the viewers who are probably Republicans who don't want me continuing to talk about what they're doing to the court right now.
Well, sir, don't the voters deserve to know
No,
where
they
you
don't.
stand?
I'm not going to play his game.
Senator, you talked about the former vice president looking right into the camera, but his answer on court packing, adding more justices to the court, just sounds like a straight-up dodge. Why won't he talk about what he wants to do, what he thinks should happen?
Well, I think he's very clear, John, which is that he is focused, as we all should be, on the next 35 days, and he is focused on, one, the process by which we're even having the conversation about the United States Supreme Court. We all just honored, and I was there while the great Ruth Bader Ginsburg was lying in state, the first woman ever. And now we see that the president and the Senate Majority Leader are pushing through a nominee while Americans are voting. We're not even talking about a debate as has occurred in the past about election year. We're talking about literally during an election. Almost 1 million people have voted, and they're trying to ram this nominee through, clearly for political purposes. So I think Joe is right to require the discussion to be focused on what is actually happening right now and the unfairness of it and the hypocrisy with which it is being done.
So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know your senators. I'm not going to answer the question because... And the fact is, and I've made it very clear, within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. Right. Look, and one of the reasons why I want to be president, and I referenced it indirectly when I decided not to run last time because of my son, but was that there's so much out there. Think of what this next generation is going to have an opportunity to see. We're going to do everything from make fundamental change in curing cancer and Alzheimer's and diseases. Your kids are going to be flying across America in a matter of less than an hour and a half. We're gonna have, you know, subsonic air at 20,000 miles. I mean, there's so many things that are changing. That saves billions of gallons of gasoline. I mean, billions of I think it's $2.3 billion worth of, excuse me, $500 billion in savings and 2-point-something billion metric tons of CO2 going in the air. Well, folks, eliminate one tax loophole out of $1.6 trillion worth, $1.4 trillion worth. Out of $1.4 billion, $1.4 billion. It's hard to even say it so much. And by the way, it costs a lot of money. It costs about $740 billion over 10 years. I agree that everybody wants they, in fact, they should. Anyway, my time's up. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Vice President.
Why should people want to make a change, though?
Well, that's up to them to decide.
Why should they?
It's for them to decide.
Well, make your case.
I'm not going to. We can't rebuild our economy and meet this climate crisis. You know, the rapidly rising I don't know. And when we disagree, it'll be just like, so far it's been just like when Barack and I did. It's in private. She'll say, I think we should do A, B, C, or D. And I'll say, I like A, don't like B and C. And it's go, okay. And like I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign. I don't want to punish anybody, but everybody should pay a fair share. And I can lay out for you. I won't now because he'll shoot me.
We choose truth over facts.
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. No, faith should not be considered. None. I don't think there's any question about a faith. You may remember I got in trouble when we were running against the senator who was a Mormon, the governor, okay? And I took him on. No one's faith should be questioned. But I tell you what, we're already in the midst of a real fight here. Everyone knows in 28 days, 20 million Americans may lose their health care.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question.
Abraham Lincoln is one of the most gracious presidents we've had in modern history.
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking.
No sitting president has ever done this. Never, never, never. No Republican president has done this. No Democratic president. We've had racists, and they've existed, they've tried to get elected president. He's the first one that has.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Donald Trump does pose an extra threat to this. It's not hypothetical. There's things that are worth dealing with China tough on. It makes it far more durable, reliable, and powerful. And partnerships built on coercion. Because if you could take care, you were a quartermaster, you can sure and help take care of running a department store thing, where in the second floor of the ladies department. You know what I mean? 1.2 billion. So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store and in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. What happened? The way China will respond is when we gather the rest of the world that in fact engages in open trade and making sure that we're in a position that the world that we deal with WHO the right way. That in fact that's when things began to change. I looked at it anyway. That's what I think my plan. I know what my plan does. I mean, but I mean, it's not about. I know you're supporting by saying booing, but look, here's the deal. Well, the only thing we can do about it is be prepared. We have a whole group of lawyers who are going out to every voter registration physician in the states, the secretaries of state, making sure that they in fact have a game plan as to how they're going to allow the voting to take place. But you know, in the 2020 census, which is now 2 censuses ago, soon to be, estimated 200 million people have died, probably by the time I finish this talk.
Great.
Unnecessarily, now we have over 120 million dead from COVID. That's why I've made it a priority my entire career to work closely with you. From the time I got to the Senate 180 years ago, you know, as well as my tenure as vice president.
1787, United States Constitution.
Welcome to Kingswood Community Center. Actually, that's the one down where I used to work. It's a joke. You know where we were. Anyway. Don't have here in Miami, in Florida. You don't have a review, and that is if you keep South Carolina's going to determine who the next president of the United States is going to be. You really are. You're the ones that sent Bill Clinton to the presidency. You're the ones that sent Barack Obama to the presidency. And I have a simple proposition here. I'm here to ask you for your help. Where I come from, you don't get far unless you ask. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. Look me over. If you'd like to see, help out. If not, vote the other way. Give me a look, though, okay? That's all I've really got to say to you. I got 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. I'm looking at the clock down here. COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. I just spoke at Dartmouth on healthcare at the medical school, or not, I guess I wasn't actually on the campus, but the people from the medical school were at there. I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts. I'm not sure whether it's a medical school or where the hell I spoke. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. The president asked me to head up a cancer moonshot. We can't afford it by just eliminating, beginning to reward work as much as wealth. We have to eliminate the funding gap that exists between minority white and majority white and non-white districts. It's a good question. Number one, I was a Democratic caucus. You ever been to a caucus? No, you haven't. You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. My physical as well as my mental fitness. Get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. And I want to see these two little young ladies. I want to see them dancing when they're 4 years old, too.
Thank you.
This is my daughter-in-law. You have very good taste. Good to see you, man. You have good taste. I'll tell you what, you've got very good taste. It's a pleasure to meet you. You have very good taste.
What a creep.
Pleasure to meet you.
Good, and again, please make it very good.
So tell me about you.
Hi.
How you come over my side? You come over this side. You come over this side. Come on this side. Okay? Come on, sis. You get right in the middle with me. You get right over here. Over this. Mom, you get right in the middle. Come on, Dad. Okay. How old are you?
28.
28.
26.
26. school. Too many beautiful girls in school. I got one job. My dad used to say, for real, keep your boys away from your sister. That's the job. Just remember, no serious guys in your 30s. Is this your sister? You have a hard job. You gotta keep the boys away from your sister. That's a deal. Hey, Jasper, you're gonna have a hard job keeping the boys away from your sister. Like you had a beautiful sister, keep the boys away from your sister. That's the job. My dad used to say one job. Keep the guys away from your sister. My dad used to say you got one job. I have a beautiful sister like you got. I swear to God, he used to say you got one job. Keep the guys away from your sister.
You've also been criticized about your interactions with women. 7 women accused you of touching them without their permission. While they didn't say it crossed the line into sexual harassment, they did say that you made them feel uncomfortable. And many have been critical about how you've handled it since the accusations. Even Speaker Nancy Pelosi said this. She said, to say I'm sorry you were offended is not an apology. It's, I'm sorry I invaded your space. Now, you have come out and said, I get it, especially because we're in a different time now. We're in the Me Too movement. But are you sorry for what you did? Are you prepared to apologize to those women?
Look, here's the deal. I have to be, and everybody has to be much more aware of the private space of men and women. It's not just women, but primarily women. And I am much more cognizant of that. But I am so, like, for example, I actually thought in my head when I walked out here, I mean, we're friends. No, but I have to be aware of it. So I have to be more cognizant. We all have to be more. A woman or a man has a right to say, particularly a woman, say, no, this is not my space. They shouldn't have to say no. I should be able to read better. But I have never in my life done anything in approaching a woman that has been, other than trying to bring I'm used to, like, one of your staff was producers, or I'm not sure who it was backstage, saying, I remember you're the only guy last time to get up and you walked into the audience and talked to people. I'm used to, I think it's really important to listen. I think those who are elected officials, it's important to listen and understand what people are going through and what they're concerned about, and let them know that you know. And so I don't think that's old-fashioned or no. I think it's everybody really should be doing that. But I have to be more careful that I walk in, even including whether I sit down next to somebody and it's not invited to sit down. So that's my responsibility. I have to be more aware, and it's totally legitimate for someone not to have to say, no, don't get in my private space. It's my job. It's my job to read. No, this is space that no one wants me to invade.
Yeah. All right, so Joe's working on healthy boundaries. All right, Alchemist. That's about all I got.